Market news now. Lukewarm Chinese economic data, negotiation over U.S. government finances and uncertainty over interest rates has left investors on edge and stocks stuck in range. The rand hit an all-time low before pairing losses. JP Morgan slashed its growth forecast on expectations of deeper power cuts as the fallout continued from a U.S. assertion that a ship had carried weapons and ammunition from South Africa to Russia last year. The rand at one point sank as low as 19 rand 51 to the dollar, down more than 1.6% on its previous close. Meanwhile, miner AngloGold Ashanti has announced that it will move its primary listing out of South Africa to the United States as it seeks access to more sources of capital and aims to appeal to American investors. The company, valued at $215 billion on the JSE, sold off its remaining operating assets in South Africa in 2020 and will now move its corporate domicile to the UK. To talk to us about the latest when it comes to the markets, we are joined by Warwick Lucas, who is from Galileo Securities. Warwick, thank you so much for your time. Starting off with the global market sentiment, why do we get the sense that the market is stuck in what I would describe as a twilight zone?
Well, I think it's very much a balancing act that we're looking for at the moment. We've seen U.S. Equities look moderately okay, and yet bond market rates have substantially lowered, which normally is indicative of expectations of recessionary conditions. And yet this isn't coming through in the U.S. stock market. And I think also just turning to the likes of commodities, so on. I mean, the commodity CRB index, which is a broad one, or if we're looking at the oil price and gold price, and those have been a little bit bearish in the last little while, and that's also suggestive of a global economy heading for a slowdown. And that the US, when it sees the likes of unemployment data looking positive and so on, is taking encouragement from that. That all is adding up to quite a contradictory scenario, and I think there's some resolution needed there.
Let's talk about the rand, and we got a chart on screen for the viewers, and looking at its weekly performance so far, down about 5.7% to its worst level of about 1951, as I mentioned in the intro. Is the market still fretting about this allegation coming out of the United States?
Well, I think it's a host of issues. I mean, we obviously have the chestnut of power cuts. I mean, they have been somewhat more severe than usual in the last little while, and then of course this potential detente with the US over the issue of arms exports, i.e., did they or don't they? And I mean that trade with the US is very important. So, for example, the South African exports in 2022 to the US was about $11 billion, or at this current rate, we're talking about 200 billion rand. And I mean, when you consider that the biggest line items there, excluding precious metals and so on, are the likes of vehicles, iron and steel, machinery, aluminium. I mean, those are line items that if they get cut out, could quite severely impact local employment, the likes of ArcelorMittal and other machinery and so on manufacturers, and head to unemployment. So there are genuine issues of concern here that need to be dealt with.
On that note, then, are there, SA stocks that are starting to reflect the broader issues in the economy when you look at their share prices?
Well, I think certainly for me the big shock there was those Pick and Pay results. I mean, that's normally that's just a tanker that just sails and sails without interruption, and we saw the pounding happening there, given what they had to spend on power generation. And of course, looking at our mining companies as well. I mean, we're seeing devastating cuts in volumes. And that's flowing through to their earnings, because either they have power cuts or they can't transport their produce. I mean, we saw that both in company results, and of course we saw that in the mining and manufacturing data that came out yesterday. It's a very ugly picture.
Warwick, let's leave it there. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, but that is Warwick Lucas, who is from Galileo Securities. And on the performance of the Rand on Monday, we will have an in-depth focus looking at its performance since 1995, right up until now. And that is sure to be a very interesting discussion as we look at some of the events that have triggered the currencies over the years and how it's faring, especially when we compare the Rand to its emerging market peers. However, that is it for me. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have SME on Point with Geopolitical. So stay tuned.